From legacy media to emerging platforms, how we deliver and consume content continues to change and evolve. For creators, growing an audience takes insight and understanding of what works now. With me today is Fraser Cain, creator of Universe Today. With nearly 500,000 subscribers on YouTube alone, a weekly newsletter, members-only content, events, and more, I thought it would be interesting to see how he's grown a science and space-related channel for his audience. Thanks for being with us today, Fraser.
Hey, Mark. Good to talk to you.
Well, thanks for being here. And I thought we'd start, give us a little background about where you came from. This isn't something that's been, the last year or two. You've been at this for a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I just celebrated my 25th year of running Universe Today. So I started the website in March 1999, and in March 2024, past 25 years. So
Congratulations.
Yeah, I've been at this for a while.
So you're way ahead of the curve for what influencers, content creators. You were probably making content before we called it content. We just called it stuff, media.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Staying power to you, and that's awesome. So how did you focus on science and space-related content?
Well, I'd always been interested in space and astronomy, like from a little kid, and I would read books on space and astronomy, and I bought my own telescope and watched rocket launches and science fiction and all of that. And then even in high school, I was reporting on space and astronomy events for my school newspaper in their journalism program. And then I went to university and then went into computer software and sort of took a bit of a digression for a decade, and then realized that I really missed, I was sort of, actually, it's funny. So it's two books. I got my hands on The Case for Mars by Robert Zubrin and Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan, and read those two books. And I was like, oh, right. I love space. I forgot, but now I remember now. I love space, and was looking for a way to express that. And also I wanted to play around with different methods of communicating on the internet. Like I just figured websites were really interesting compared to more traditional media outlets. And so I just started to maintain a blog, I guess was the technical term at the time.
Of course.
And was just recapping interesting, reporting on interesting space news that was happening. And within about a year, 2 years, I'm like, oh no, this is all I want to do for the rest of my life. So now it's just a matter of figuring out how to extricate myself from the corporate grind and just become a space journalist for forever.
You kind of looked at it differently. You had a love of a topic and just found it didn't really matter where or what channel. You were going to please yourself. I think that's really important about making
sort of
content.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two parts to it. One is that I've always been really interested in space and astronomy, and that was a topic that I wanted to explore. One that provided me with an infinite amount of complexity and depth to actually investigate. It would never end. But also, I really enjoy educating and communicating the stuff that I find to other people. And I had done a little bit of freelance writing. I actually did some writing for Wired. I did some writing for Business in Vancouver, like a bunch of traditional and the process of pitching, the process of writing, describing to an editor what it is that you want to write, I just found intolerable. And so the only way I could do this was to communicate this stuff out onto the internet by myself, even if I didn't want to have to ask for permission every time I wanted to come up with a story idea or report on something. I had to do it. And so I think over time, my two loves are space and astronomy, but also I love the process of communicating and embracing the media and learning new ways to reach people to sort of talk about this stuff. And so I think you can't, unfortunately, you can't do one or the other in this modern age. You kind of have to be a jack of all trades. I went back and got my computer science degree so that I could be better at running the technology side of what I do, because I couldn't afford to hire a webmaster to manage our website.
Right. And so your approach to your content, and it really has a foundation of where your business background came from.
Yeah.
And I think that and then you took that knowledge and said, well, I really like space, technology, science. Let's go, jump in. I think in the people that I've talked to, the people that I watch, the people that I follow, successful content comes from organically created material where someone really emotionally is tied to it. It's not just, oh, I got to post today because I got to post today. Those people seem to
Yeah.
flame out. You have a specific desire and a love of what you do. So, and you've told me this in the past. It doesn't matter what channel you're on. You want to talk about the stories you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you are creating content, and I hate that term,
I,
but when you are writing, when you are when you're making movies, when you whatever, um, you can be unsuccessful and nobody finds your stuff, and then it's really just run on your own discipline and willingness to toil in obscurity until either you give up or there's some intrinsic value that you're gaining from the process. Um, or you figure something out that works, and then you now have this fork in the road, which is, do I capitalize on this thing that I've discovered that people want to see coverage of SpaceX landings or whatever, and it's financially lucrative, but it is really hard on the soul because you are having to continue to publish stuff that is going to resonate with an audience, but you're done. You've moved on. You've already sort of plumbed those depths as far as you care, and now you're curious and interested in other stuff, but it doesn't matter because now you're the guy who writes about the comings and goings of some specific mission or whatever. And I think that for me, it's important to pick a topic that's very broad, but still specific, space astronomy, but then to let my curiosity be the guide for what it is that I'm following and writing about. And, much to the frustration of my producer, where he's like, oh, this would work really well. And I'll be like, I don't care. I'm not interested. I'm not curious. I know the answer to those questions. I'm not curious about them. I have different questions that I want to explore. And I think it's that being able to follow your own curiosity to keep the art in what you're doing, and then at the same time hope that the work that you're creating is of interest to enough people that you're going to be able to continue doing this as an actual career. And I'm really fortunate that we're at that point, that the people trust me. They didn't know that they wanted to know about the topics that I'm finding and talking about, but they're glad that I do.
you pick things that you want to report on.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
to me that makes you emotionally tied. Like I care, you care about it. I think, do you feel that
Totally.
that you got to have that to be successful?
It's what I need. I don't know if that's if everybody can do that,
Mhm.
but I know that there's a lot of creators who are making YouTube videos, who are on Twitch, whatever, and they've gotten successful, but they've also gotten sort of categorized in a way that they're having trouble getting out of that box. And they lose enthusiasm for the material that they're creating. Like 10 years ago, they started making Minecraft videos, and now it's been 10 years later and they're still making Minecraft videos, and they're dead inside
Yeah,
because they're having to make these videos they just don't care about.
yeah,
Um, and yet there's these other games that they're really interested in, but when they try to make a video about one of these other games, nobody wants to watch it because they want to see more of their Minecraft videos. And
right.
that is this tension that you will experience as a creator, that you have to be able to balance. And I think that for most people, because you have to pay the rent, you have to err on the side of doing the stuff that's going to be commercially successful.
Do you find yourself kind of chasing eyeballs,
Mm,
stories, revenue?
no. So, I mean, like, we need revenue because we
Sure.
need to stay alive. But our organization is so lean. I mean, it is me at my kitchen table. It is my producer in another country. It's a video editor in another country. And it's a handful of freelance writers who are working from their kitchen tables. And that's it. And we pay for the server. So there's no building, there's no expenses, there's nothing. There's literally just the money that we spend is the words that we put on the screen and the videos that we make and the podcasts that we record. And so I am definitely under pressure to make sure that I can cover everybody's salaries, but it doesn't take a lot. And so I'm able to sort of live in this world where I'm not having to be pressurized. I don't feel intense pressure to release content that I'm not interested in to fulfill shareholder value, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
I'm the shareholder.
For you, what do you tell either students or people who are coming up who ask for advice on how to be successful in this current media landscape?
Well, I mean, it doesn't come up a lot. Like, I don't get a lot of people asking me for advice on what to do. But I think the best advice that I ever received from my writing mentor was to learn to write a lot, to be prolific, to create a lot of content. That most people have this perspective that you need to suffer for your art, that it's going to take you a lot of time, that you're going to edit and you're going to edit and you're going to edit, and it's going to, and you're not going to be able to create a large volume of work. And his perspective was, no, learn to write fast, and by writing fast, you'll learn to write well, and also you'll be fast. So, and so I create an enormous amount of content, and through the entire team at Universe Today, I mean, we create just a ludicrous amount of stories that we're reporting on.
You guys do. It's an amazing amount of work.
Yeah, and I kind of set the pace for what we're trying to accomplish, and so I think that's the first thing, is like, learn to write quickly and write, and then over time, not only will you be writing quickly, but you're learning to write well. But like, apart from that, I think you as a creator need to follow your own curiosity. That for me, the stuff that I'm reporting on is the stuff that I am genuinely curious about, that I do not know the answers to, that I want to know more, to gain more knowledge in this area, to become more of a walking, talking space encyclopedia.
Yeah.
And that requires direct questions to research. Like Wikipedia, it doesn't give me what I need anymore. That reading books, whatever. Like, I need to talk to scientists about what they're seeing in their telescopes today. And that's where my curiosity has led me. And so I think if you don't have that curiosity and that direct connection and fascination for what you're researching, then it's just a paycheck, and then you're not that interested. And the people who are consuming your content, they can tell that you're not really into it, and they're going to find somebody who is. So I think I don't really have a lot of advice.
Well, but I think
show up every day,
but I
right?
think what you're saying has a lot of advice. I don't, listen, there are a lot of sites that are going to tell you to obsess over thumbnails and a hook
right.
click. And it sounds like to you and your audience, that's not important. What to you and your audience, and I'm one of them, it is when you see a headline that says, "Oh wow, we're gonna bounce probes off of Pluto." I mean, like, what's that about? And
Yeah.
you want to find more about that. So there's meat. There's not just a salacious headline that is clickbait.
I do this stuff for me. I do this stuff as a way that I can explore my curiosity. And the things that I'm doing, the interviewing scientists, are part of this process so that I can better understand the material. But I record everything that I do, and then I make it, and then we try to make it as nicely produced and as available and accessible on as many platforms as possible. But I kind of have to think about what I am curious about first, and as opposed to trying to do what I think the audience is going to want.
That's
I think
good.
I think it's just where you go.
But I think that's
Yeah.
what makes you interesting, and I think that's you've still built a successful following with that.
I mean, at least it lets you show up for 25 years. Like, I think that's it. It's just like, if you aren't doing what you're enjoying, if you aren't doing what you're curious about, if you don't go and find stuff that genuinely satisfies your curiosity, then you get burned out. And then when you burn out, then you no longer create. And when you do that, then you lose your audience.
Yeah.
And so it has to start right at the beginning, which is that you have to tackle the problem of burnout at the very beginning, which is, are you doing things that don't make you happy? And if you are, then burnout is inevitable.
You said something to me I think was really interesting. You're not, and I think this is very important as well, which is you're not concerned about channels as well or platforms. We all know algorithms. You're not going to chase an algorithm. You're not going to chase a channel. That's really important. A lot of people think, oh, I just got to develop my multi-channel strategy, or I just got to be on YouTube and I got to be on Instagram or TikTok, and everything will be great. We've all listen. You're in it long enough. You're going to get burned by those channels.
Totally.
Yeah.
There are two groups of distribution platforms that you have to identify. So there is the distribution platforms that you control and the platforms that you don't control. And you need to behave differently on those two platforms. So for examples of ones that you do control is your website, your RSS feed, your podcast, your email distribution list, your Patreon. Right? You can go, I'm going to communicate with everybody who receives my podcast. You then upload a short little piece of audio into your podcast feed, and everybody who's subscribed to your podcast receives that message. Same thing with your email list, same thing with your website, right? But then there are the distribution platforms that you don't control. They act as an intermediary between you and your audience, the social media groups, anybody that is trying to sort of get you into some kind of collective process like that. And in those cases, you are then at their whim. You have no way to directly connect with your audience. And so if you build an audience, it's not your audience, it's their audience. And they can remove you from that audience when it becomes more profitable or whatever. And so there is tremendous value in being on YouTube and being on Twitter and being on Facebook, whatever it is, but you have to be as extractive to those platforms as they are going to be to you, which is that you need to get them off of YouTube and into your ecosystem.
Your universe, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where you can then have direct communication, have a direct relationship with those. So they are valuable because it can expose you to new people who might never see your stuff, but they're also, you need to keep a very arm's length relationship and be aware at all times that you're just one algorithmic change away from losing everything.
Yeah.
And so to be, I am not a YouTuber. I would never say that I'm a YouTuber. I'm not a TikToker. I'm not a Facebook or a Twitch or whatever, because then you're locked into this platform and then you become just whenever they change, whatever the whim is, then you're done. Or the algorithm just turns on you and forces you through desperation to have to work harder and longer and more in specific ways that feeds their algorithm. Like YouTube, for example, says, oh, we don't want you to be burned out. We're really concerned about you. But if you don't release content on a machine gun pace of certain kinds, with certain kinds of thumbnails, with certain kinds of content using the keywords that they recommend, then you're going to start to lose your credibility and,
it's like
and traffic in the system. It's a treadmill that you don't control, that you are just, the speed on the treadmill changes depending on what the algorithm wants from you. And listen, that is no way to live.
You have talked about these, I don't know if we want to call them, misinformation sites or fake sites or sites that are just kind of like, maybe they're AI created. They're just sort of nonsensical. You could watch 10 minutes and not learn anything.
Yeah,
and I think that's a real threat because you're also on that channel too. I know you're not a YouTuber, but tell me a little bit about your concern about that, where we are with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like before we go any further, like I want to say that I am a huge fan of artificial intelligence. I think it's awesome. Agreed. And I use OpenAI, ChatGPT almost every day as a brainstorming partner, as a way to help me understand the content that's in technical papers and stuff like that. But I would never let it write for me because it's not ready. It writes at a very kind of bland level. It hallucinates. It's not correct. But it is so easy to generate content. You could say, write me an essay about black holes, and it will give you thousands of words of content about black holes. And then you could take that, and there's actually websites now that will let you put in audio and video stuff to go along with that. And within half an hour, you've created an hour-long video that has plausible content about black holes with animations about black holes, and it just goes in circles and it doesn't say anything. Then you put a really catchy clickbait title on your thumbnail and you put it on YouTube, and you're gonna get a lot of traffic. And so, this is a problem that's been identified by Kyle Hill, and even the BBC did a documentary about this, that there's a ton of this content on YouTube that often has very clickbait titles, very they're trying to suck you in with famous astronomers crying and telling you that they were wrong and the amazing life that James Webb found and so on and so forth. And yet you watch the video and it doesn't do any of that. It's just sort of goes in circles, very bland. Well, this is a way to try and extract money through advertising. And these sites do better than we do, but way better, because there's no rules. You don't need to tell the truth. You just let the machine go. And it appears that YouTube is either incapable or unwilling to deal with this problem. And so it is reducing the scientific legitimacy of the content that's on YouTube, that you are sort of starting to learn that you just can't trust any video that you see over time. And that's just going to erode the public's understanding of scientific information,
which
just
could
keeps
be,
going.
like, to your comments, they're very apropos. Which, when you say, "Hey, I can't be married. I'm not a YouTuber," because there could come a day where it's just watered down. Like an old email that you have, where there's so much spam in the email that you just have to leave that email.
Yeah, just let
and
it on fire and walk away.
You could envision a day where YouTube just becomes inundated with clickbait, and maybe advertisers leave at that point too. I mean, we don't know how it all plays out, but I think you bring up a really good point. I have fallen into it because I follow you and a bunch of other sites that you start getting fed things. I'm like, what am I watching? It's like it's like a sugar cookie, and it just there's nothing there. There's nothing,
and it's just going to get better and better. So, we are seeing the worst this content will ever be, but it's going to be better and better. It's going to do a much better job of generating video and graphics and audio effects and narration, and the underlying writing for the video is going to get better and better and better. So yeah, absolutely. And there may be a time, like I think if we get to a place where you can spool up a script and it will write you a 1 hour long documentary on the new discoveries made by the James Webb Space Telescope, and you can publish it to YouTube, and it is factually correct, that the scientists look through it and go, yeah, this is terrific, then I will seed the playing field. I will shake hands with the artificial intelligence, and I will take my team and we will step off the field because we were bested. We're not there yet. And so until then, we're going to keep creating the best content that we can.
There's something about the human reasoning and thought and emotional side of it that I don't know. Again, this is the worst AI will be.
I think it's inevitable. I think it's going to get better and better and better until it's good.
Till it's good. But I don't know about great.
Or great. And then it'll be great. And then it'll be the best you've ever seen. Better than any human being that's ever done anything.
Well, it is fascinating, and we'll meet in a couple of years, and we'll just have each of our AIs interview each other.
Yeah, exactly. I've been watching my documentaries. Here's a list of the documentaries that I've been creating. I took I may take a science paper, feed it into OpenAI. It's going to generate a documentary for me, and it'll be wonderful. And that'd be so cool. I love it.
I got a guy. I spoke with him last week. He is a really good friend of mine. He's an editor I've known for 30 years. He's incredibly talented. He gave a really good discussion on AI filmmaking. Very similar, where he believes it's coming, but he feels it will always need the human touch, much as After Effects and Cinema 4D and these tools that we use. They're very powerful, and he looks at it as another tool that has to be monitored.
In the medium term, absolutely. Right now, these are all tools that I can use to express more interesting space news and content and the things that are satisfying my curiosity to my audience.
Yeah.
In the long term, I think it's entirely plausible that this stuff is going to be better than me.
Well, listen, I want to thank you, Fraser, for giving us your insight on your years of experience from a blog to a multi-channel science experience for your members and visitors. And I really think I wish you a lot more years
Right.
of success before AI finally
We'll
takes you
see you on the other side of the singularity. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank you for being here, and I really appreciate all your time. I'll give all your links on the
Yeah,
bottom.
subscribe. I mean, the best one is to subscribe to my newsletter. Go to universetoday.com/newsletter. I send it out every Friday. It goes out to 70,000 people. It's completely free. There's no advertisements in it. I write every single word in this document and plan to until the robot crushes my hand.
And he
And until
means it.
then,
And I'll tell you,
yeah,
there's great
yeah.
information in there. If you're into science or space exploration, astrophysics, it's incredible. And we are,
It's enormous. So you'll need some time to read it because it's
yeah,
about
and it's great that it
5,000
comes out on
words.
a Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect for Saturday morning coffee.
Yeah. So listen, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Happy to do it.
And we will catch you next time. Thank you,
All
Fraser.
right.